Today we're going to look at the history of one of the longest running shows in Disneyland history, Fantasmic. We already know that Disneyland, in the words of Walt, will never be completed. So what changes have happened for Fantasmic? Well, hello there! My name's Jeremy and welcome back to Freeform Disney, where I talk about all aspects of Disney, from the animated movies to the theme parks to Star Wars, Marvel, and Pixar, and the TV shows, and everything else in between. And that is why it's Freeform. And keep coming back every day for new daily content. If you're not subscribed yet, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Today it's time to take a journey through time once more in another episode of Disneyland history. And this time, we're going to be looking at the amazing nighttime spectacular, Fantasmic. To any of you who don't know what Fantasmic is, well, it is quite possibly the best show that Disney has ever created at the parks. And for me personally, I think it probably does take that cake and is the best show that Disney has made. Fantasmic is a 25-minute show that combines all kinds of different elements. It's mainly got a giant story that runs through the entire show, which makes it unlike the other nighttime shows. Fantasmic has a big story that goes along with it. And on top of that, it's also got these cool mist screens created from water that projections are played out on. Also, it's got pyrotechnics. We got fire through it. We have fireworks in it. We have tons of actual characters played by a whole bunch of cast members. So it just kind of has it all. And of course, a giant dragon doesn't hurt, right? Or in the words of Fantasmic itself, nothing is more powerful than the imagination. So Fantasmic, very cool show. It's also great nostalgia for bringing back all kinds of different Disney movies all into this crazy dreamscape that Mickey is having, which is both really neat in a nice way, and then also we get the nightmare aspect in there too. And of course Mickey wins in the end. So what about some more about Fantasmic? It's commented it's a 25-minute show. The one in Disneyland takes 50 cast members in hundreds of costumes, so most everyone's playing 2 to 3 roles during the course of the show. One thing that the show director Barnett Ritchie said about the creation of Fantasmic was that it actually came off of plans to do a 35th anniversary special show in Disneyland for 1989. She says, quote, "I had an idea for an anniversary show at the castle that would take special effects techniques like lasers and mist screens and combine them with live performers. So there was a lot of research done on the different technologies available," end quote. But that 35th anniversary show fell through and never happened. But they had looked into a lot of those technologies, and they got a demo of the mist screen technology from a French company. And as Ritchie says, quote, "Seeing it made the whole show just fall into place. What if Disney animation was projected onto those screens? It would be incredible," end quote. And it certainly was. And we've seen it in World of Color since as well. The projections onto water screens are an intriguing idea that really are only a few decades old at this point. So why Fantasmic, you ask? Well, Disney was looking for another nighttime show to keep people over in Disneyland, and the 35th anniversary show fell through, so they assigned them something else. And the Rivers of America area over in Frontierland, well, it's not the most populated area late in the evening, at least not back then. People left that area earlier than most of the other areas of Disneyland, so it was a right area for doing something. They had a location, but there was a big remodel required to make it capable of handling Fantasmic. In 1992, Fantasmic would start, but first there would be a big remodel of the Rivers of America area. They had to drain the Rivers of America, and they installed new waterworks, equipment to be able to pull off this cool Fantasmic show. They also changed the walkways over on the Frontier side and the New Orleans side, and made terraces, which would be capable of giving better viewing of Fantasmic. And they changed the island itself, and this also gave space for a big stage on the island. Giant project to go ahead and make all of those changes so we could actually have the cool show Fantasmic. But first, it needed to come up with that name. Jack Lindquist, who was president of Disneyland at the time, talked about sitting with Michael Eisner and coming up with the name just 2 months before the show started. He says, quote, "We got a big dictionary down from Michael's bookshelf and started going through it page by page. We both kept throwing out names and rejecting them. Finally, we had reached the P's, and Michael threw out Phantasmagoria. It immediately intrigued us both. The meaning related. It had the right feel. We liked it. And a week later, took the first logo concept for Fantasmic back to Michael. And the rest is showbiz history. End quote. For those wondering what phantasmagoria actually means, Webster's had defined it as 1, an early type of magic lantern show consisting of various optical illusions in which objects rapidly change size, blend into one another, etc., and 2, a rapidly changing series of scenes seen or imagined as the figures or events of a dream. Phantasmagoria definitely does fit for Fantasmic, although Fantasmic is a much cooler name. It also brings up some references to Fantasia, which makes sense given all the Sorcerer Mickey sitting through here, and we also have a bit of other Fantasia sitting in there with the Night on Bald Mountain with Chernobog. Fantasmic had an interesting little conundrum that popped up on its soft opening. Its soft opening was set to be Wednesday, April 29th of 1992, and that happened to be the day that the Los Angeles riots of 1992 started up. And guess what the slogan for Fantasmic was? The advertising slogan to get people to come in the park and see it was, "Be here when the night ignites." You can guess that Disney pulled that material as quick as they could in light of the riots. Not the greatest phrase given the timing. But that said, that did not slow Fantasmic down. Fantasmic was hugely popular. Reviews were great, crowds loved it, people loved it. And so quickly they started work over in Hollywood studios of building a giant amphitheater over there for Disney World's version of the show, which would open a few years later in 1998. And it remained so popular that Disneyland Tokyo Sea also added a version of Fantasmic. So there are 3 different Fantasmics currently running. And Fantasmic wasn't expected to run this long. It was originally set just to be a 5-year show. That would be it. Run for 5 years? Done. And at this point, it is actually the second longest running show in Disney history, and Disneyland history, of course. The longest running show is actually the Golden Horseshoe Revue, which ran for 31 years from July 17, 1955 to October 12, 1986, which means that Fantasmic is getting close. A little bit longer, another few years, and Fantasmic will be the longest running show in Disney history. And right now, it shows no signs of stopping. In fact, it just had a recent update in 2017, which made it Fantasmic 2.0 with all kinds of updates. I don't see the show going anywhere anytime soon, and it probably will become that longest running show. Pretty cool. Pretty dang cool. Let's talk about some of the changes that have happened since that opening. And we're only focusing on Disneyland here. Another time maybe I'll talk about Disneyland Tokyo Sea or Disney World's Hollywood Studios, but not today. So today, we'll look at some of those updates between 2007 and 2015, and then also, of course, the big 2017 update to Fantasmic 2.0. Over the course of the years, 2007 and 2008 saw Disney looking for ways to reduce maintenance costs on Fantasmic and also become a bit more environmental as they were pushing some environmental changes at the time. And so, that means in 2007 we got a new sound system and new show barges with some LED lighting. In 2008, we got a big overhaul of the entire lighting system. The towers were redone, some new screens put in, also LED lighting, of course. 2008, the pyrotechnics were also changed so there was less smoke. And those big 70mm film projectors, which had been there since 1992 when the show opened, were replaced with digital HD projectors. But 2009 also had some big changes for the show coming. We added a new interactive mechanical crocodile, which was smaller than the original one that followed Peter Pan's ship. But hey, it could interact, and that was kind of cool. The giant 20-foot Ursula, which used to go on the waters, was replaced with Flotsam and Jetsam. And also, Murphy came into being. Now, Murphy is the nickname given to the Maleficent Dragon that came into being in 2009. The previous dragon was a big cherry picker, essentially with a giant dragon head on it. But this one, full body, 45 feet tall, and incredibly impressive looking. Now, why the name Murphy, you ask? Well, he's affectionately named that way, or she, I guess I suppose, since it's Maleficent. She's affectionately named that after Murphy's Law. What can go wrong will go wrong, and at the worst possible time. Murphy was prone to have some breakdowns, especially in 2009, 2010, and onward. But still, an impressive dragon. Very, very impressive. Love it. Only a few major changes left before 2017. In 2013, we took out Flotsam and Jetsam. So no more Ursula from 2009, no more Flotsam and Jetsam either. That whole piece kind of gone now. Kind of sad, really. I'd love to have seen them do an upgraded version of Ursula. Now, apparently they had been the plan, but in 2009, they just weren't able to get it done in time. It was going over budget and was costing too much, and that's why we didn't end up getting a new version of Ursula. Moving onward, 2014, they brought in some new fountains that were all of the ones over in World of Color, kind of those dancing fountains. They just didn't really work that well with Fantasmic at the time. They weren't syncing up right and was causing problems, so they actually took them back out in 2015, a year later. One last change that happened in 2014 was that the Fast Passes were added to Fantasmic. Before that, there were no Fast Passes. You went over there and saw the show. Now, on to the biggest changes that Fantasmic has seen since the creation of the show. In 2016, January 11th, 2016 to be specific, Fantasmic closed down for about a year and a half because it wouldn't open again until July 17th of 2017. And the update was huge. So huge that this is why it gets nicknamed to be Fantasmic 2.0. Not that Disney has officially changed its name, but it's different enough that fans like us go ahead and refer to it as Fantasmic 2.0. Alright, technical changes first, and I'll talk about the story changes. First off, on the technical changes, there are new mist screens from before. The new mist screens allow for much better visuals to be displayed on them, and they're visually more impressive too. Whoa. And the visuals, they're brighter, they're far improved on there, so combine those two and we have really great visuals sitting on those mist screens. We also upgraded the water, we have better lasers now, and you can really tell Disney learned lessons as they kept improving their technology and from making World of Color, and they brought some of that over into Fantasmic. Also, one of the really cool things they added was some digital projection mapping. And so now we have a whole bunch of effects that get played out onto the island and onto the mill. And these are pretty cool, actually. If you're in any doubt of the difference of the visuals between the two, take a look at some of the YouTube videos out there. It is night and day between the visuals pre-2017 update and post-2017 update. It really is impressive. Whatever you remember in your mind, those visuals weren't as good as you thought they were. And trust me, I have in my own mental projection of better images and better ideas of what Fantasmic 1.0 in Disneyland looked like. But 2.0 just, visually, yeah. Okay, what about the story changes? Because there were certainly story changes too. We added a number of things that didn't exist before. Aladdin becomes a major piece within the new Fantasmic. We have two different pieces from Aladdin. We have the genie with Friend Like Me having a piece in there, a nice little zany piece, it's fun. And then we bring in a whole new world. And we use the island for that and some mist effects to create clouds, and we have an Aladdin and Jasmine up on the carpet. And it is visually really, really cool. It's one of the more visually impressive moments in the entire show now, which works as a great intro for the Disney Princess barges. Love that intro. And the Disney Princess barges are same for 2 out of the 3, but on the third one, Snow White and Prince Charming, gone. Enter Rapunzel and Flynn. And that's a nice modern updating to the Princess barges. Makes sense, really. Especially when you think about the fact that Rapunzel really marks about the beginning of the Disney revival period. Now, debatably, that's Princess and the Frog or Rapunzel. Right in that time period right there. So one of those two would make a lot of sense to be on that barge. The other changes in the story, we added a Lion King scene in, which also then kind of pairs up with the Jungle Book scene and kind of leads into it in a crazy dreamlike mashup of the two, which is kind of neat when you think about it, and the visuals are great. It's much more psychedelic in a way, shall we say. We also added The Little Mermaid and Finding Nemo as short little pieces as we're going over into the Pinocchio section. And it's just a tiny little thing, but it's a neat little addition and just ties things together a little bit more and a bit more of that dream logic of going from one to the next to the next. And then the most controversial change, and that's the Peter Pan section being changed for Pirates of the Caribbean. Now the choreography for the fight is actually pretty much the same, but we switched to pirates. Whether you like it or not, that is Fantasmic 2.0. Personally, I'm going to say I think Peter Pan worked better, and the crocodile was cool too, of course, having TikTok back there. That said, it's still cool. Although, to be honest, I prefer my Pirates of the Caribbean pre-Jack Sparrow as far as the ride is concerned. Don't get me wrong, Pirates of the Caribbean, the first movie anyway, really loved it, enjoyed that as a movie. The others, well, not so much. But hey, Fantasmic is still a great show, regardless of those changes. And someday, who knows, maybe we'll talk about what Hollywood Studios did or Disneyland Tokyo Sea did, because they have their own innovations and changes on the classic formula. But at any rate, those are the changes we have seen to Fantasmic up through today. And there's an impressive number of changes. As Mickey might say, some imagination, huh? What about you? Have you liked the changes to Disneyland's Fantasmic? Are there any changes you would love to see made? Let me know down below. It's pretty cool seeing changes through the years. We don't always like all the changes, but the changes will happen. And hopefully we at least like them overall. And I think that is definitely true of Fantasmic. So thanks for watching this episode of Disneyland History. If you liked it, go ahead and, as usual, give me a like down there and share it with your friends. I'll see you back here tomorrow for another episode of Freeform Disney. And if you haven't done it yet, go ahead and click that subscribe button and ring the bell. Have a magical day, everyone, and may the Force be with you, always.